If you notice, she has a second title, Certified Legal Nurse Consultant. With her credentials, she could easily command $200,000 in salary and benefits in a supervisory or administrative position at a local hospital. Do the math. She makes nothing from her practice. The second job is where she earns her income. A patient should be comfortable with the other work that their doctor does, and if it involves misrepresenting all the truth with a straight face, then one may be concerned that that skill may not be entirely left to the second position. On the surface, it looks like a nice nurse helping out in medical malpractice cases, sometimes for the harmed patients and other times for some really good doctor or nurse where they did nothing wrong. My story is that my heart and circulatory system was injured by a crazy guy at a tiny facility. The treating doc covered it up, changed the topic, and treated for a phantom condition with a drug that caused additional harm to the same system. I innocently told the doc about the new symptoms, not knowing that it was caused by misconduct. The practice is owned by a large taxpayer and customer-supported hospital. That money was used to assemble a risk management team consisting of doctors, lawyers, executives. Their law firm has 17 lawyers. What kind of medicine were they practicing in that room? The fourth piece is the legal consultants, and the fourth piece is the legal consultants, and they come with strategies, and if the executives approve, then the doctors and lawyers are mere puppets. In my case, I was already sick before the harm. I was in the job search process but not employed and without dependents. My damages I will not disclose here, but if you read articles in ProPublica, you will find that in the DC area you should have economic damages of at least $500,000 for a lawyer to take your case. Doctors can harm you without consequence to them if you are worthless. The consultant gave the green light to conceal the harm, and I was injured again during a simple dental procedure because the poor dentist did not have my history. Should litigation ensue, the same consultant comes up with the lies and how to package them. The result is that the victim does not get justice, and the perpetrators are emboldened to harm again, and in my case, it was all in a doctor's office setting. They are well trained. All doctors are well trained, so harm only, or all doctors and medical personnel are well trained, so harm only comes about because of misconduct. In my case, a true death panel was assembled, and the leader was the legal consultant. When you are harmed in this system, you will notice that no one who can actually help will do so. A system of silence. It happens to anyone, not just the patient. Whistleblowers who are doctors get punished in the same way. In my case, I have evidence that the head of the practice did several acts to stop other doctors from diagnosing and treating me. I don't always know who the opposition is or who is a part of the opposition. One time I asked for help and I actually got a response from a hospital executive, and that was the devil's advocate himself. I focused on the nurse practitioner aspect and the positive reviews of Miss Bagshaw. I was trying to get basic medical care that physicians were denying me, and as a side issue, if she could review my case. A legal consultant with the power to choose who lives and who should die, where the patient was merely something on paper and in a distant state, is now in her. So the same patient who's on paper is now in her office, but that makes no difference to her. She found a technicality to not provide the service, but she did discuss the case for an hour, and no doubt she was taking the devil's advocate position. What was different from the rest of the opposition is that I could not detect her falsehoods from her voice, demeanor, and facial expression. Perhaps she is more than a consultant and testifies as well. The description of the initial injury to me is revolting to the opposition, and they either display an expression of shock or they overcorrect and are very stiff. Miss Bagshaw easily saw the harm on my body, and with my paper evidence and my talk with her, she grasped everything within a minute. She repeatedly asked me what my damages were, suggesting that someone who does not have economic damages has not been harmed, something akin to the Dred Scott decision that a slave could not have been harmed because he has no rights. He excused everything that was done. She excused everything that was done to me. If someone were to say that the type of argument she would use is that if someone were to say that a car jumped the curb and injured a pedestrian on the sidewalk, she would reply that cars drive on roads and pedestrians walk on sidewalks, and thus nothing in the driving procedure can injure a pedestrian. Her credibility was severely diminished when she insisted that all the ways the doctors fraudulently alter records were just normal practice and that they were not committing any fraud. To find the truth does not require a medical expert. Medicare sets a standard for medical records, and this is what doctors are required to produce. All large practices have electronic records and not something typed on stationery. Physical exam findings such as vitals are a part of records. So when a doctor doesn't release the physical findings, simple things like blood pressure, that relates to your heart, and that's something they may be hiding. So if they don't release that, then you know that they're hiding something when it is truly required that they have that information. Then the records are to be input or dictated at the conclusion of each visit, not a consolidated single report and not something with a weekend timestamp. The question of inputting on the weekend should not come up for these routine office visits which are done at and the dictation being done at the conclusion of those visits. The software allows doctors to backdate a new record when they claim that the service was performed on a weekend because they may not have access to the software. The only time that she displayed overacted emotion was as I was gathering up my papers before I was leaving. They were in different parts of the small office. She said, "You can look into my file if you think I am hiding your papers," with the tone that is used with a crazy person or a small child, just to make me think that she thought that I was like that when she knew exactly what was going on. There are some doctors who are whistleblowers, and this type of overt or veiled accusation that they are mentally ill is done against them as well. If that doctor raised his voice because of the BS argument of the facility, then he's told to seek counseling. That's their trump card. They are always allowed to diagnose someone to be crazy.